Okay, well, welcome to All Classic Car in this collection of British Leyland cars, Part 2. And I begin with a Vanden Plas 1300. And that is followed by a Triumph 2500S, an S registration car, so that'll be 1977, 1978. And an Austin Allegro, an early Allegro from the early 1970s. This example is in Harvest Gold colour. And continuing with British Leyland cars, we've got an L-Reg 1973 MGB GT. And following that, we have an Austin Princess. This is a mid to late 1970s example. Not many of these left now. And a couple of Triumph Dolomite Sprints on a club stand at a classic car show 2 or 3 years ago now. And here we have an Austin 1300 on period Cosmic Alley wheels. This car is a 1972 example. And again from the early 1970s we've got a rally prepared Triumph TR7. Hopefully this video will just celebrate the huge variety of vehicles that were under the British Leyland banner at the time. And here we've got a Series 2 E-Type Jaguar. The mixture of makes and models that appeared in BL dealerships was quite something. Here we've got a Morris Minor Coupe, a TC, the twin carburettor car, circa 1973. An Austin 1100, J registration, so that'll be 1970 or thereabouts. And a Triumph Toledo. Here's a front-on view of a Toledo arriving at a classic car show a few years ago. M registration, so that's about 1973. And a rubber bumper MGB Roadster with a slightly earlier chrome bumper GT alongside. And a Wolseley version of the Austin Morris 1800. This was the Wolseley 1885, sort of late 60s, 1968 or thereabouts. The 1973 car here is a Rover 3.5 litre, the P6, and that's followed by the front wheel drive Triumph 1300. And a review of the Daimler version of the XJ Coupe, the Daimler Sovereign Coupe, on Kent Alley wheels. And the Austin Ambassador, there's a rare sight nowadays, in beige, A registration, so that'll be what, 1983. There's a rubber bumper MGB alongside. Now to the early 70s, and we've got a Triumph TR6, a 2.5 litre fuel injected car. There's several other TRs for company. And the Vanden Plas 1500. The upmarket version of the Austin Allegro. Not altogether happy styling, I think. And the Austin Maxi. Once upon a time these were everywhere, but you very rarely see them now. This is an HL example, which was one of the slightly posher versions. And an MGB GT V8. This was fitted with the 3.5 litre Rover engine under its bonnet. To Daimler now, and the early 1980s, and we've got a XJ6, I believe, Daimler version, again on the Kent alloys, and a Series 3 Land Rover follows, 29 UCV, it's a private plate. Continuing with British Leyland and BL cars, we've got a Morris Marina 2, a V registration car, circa 1979. And driving away from us, a fixed head coupe version of the Triumph TR7. This is quite a late example from 1981. An early 70s Mini there, by which time Austin and Morris had been dropped and they were simply badged as Mini. And here's its supposed replacement. This is the Austin Mini Metro, 1981 example here. This was at Alton Park quite a few years ago now. A race prepared Rover SD1, 3.5 litre car. WOA registration, hope that doesn't signify its successes or not. And that's followed by a TR7 convertible, W Reg, so early 1980s. The rear 3/4 view of the Austin 1300 GT. This had the 1275 transverse A-series engine in it, and this was the performance version of the ADO 16 range. Next up, a Austin Allegro 2, S registration, so 1977 thereabouts. Quite a nice car. And here is a Series 2 Jaguar XJ6, P registration. Quite a smart example in red with a Mark II alongside. Another Austin Allegro, In fact, a collection of Austin Allegros on a club stand. This was at the Tatton Park Classic Car Show a few years back now. There's a Rover 2200 TC, bonnet up, and you can see the twin carburetors there. R registration, quite a late example of a P6. That's followed by a Mini 95 pickup, V registration, so 1979. You can see the frame there for the canvas tilt on the back. Another Series 2 XJ. That is followed by a very smart Triumph Stag in maroon with its hardtop fitted. There's a rubber bumper MGB behind. Both examples of British Leyland cars of the 1970s, and that's followed by an early 70s Rover 3.5 litre or 3500 P6, but the estate version. This was done by an exterior coach builder. And another rally prepared Triumph TR7. Many lights. A review now of a very wet MGB GT. This is a rubber bumper car, still with a standard B Series 1800cc engine. And the Spitfire 1500 T-Reg 1978, bright orange with its hardtop fitted, and the TR7 convertible alongside on a very sunny day. And a Mini 95 van on a private non-dating registration. Wheel arch extensions aren't original, nor are the wheels. And here's another Van der Plas 1500, i.e. the upmarket Austin Allegro. Next up, a round wheel arch MG Midget from the early 1970s, about 1973. And this Triumph 2000 looks like it means business. This was seen at the Cholmondeley Classic Car Show quite a few years ago. Looks like it was set up for doing a charity run. We've got another early Austin Princess P-Reg, so that'll be about 1975, early 1976. And an Allegro, two-door Allegro in blue this time, 1300, so it's got the 1275 A series engine under its bonnet. And the very crusty Triumph 2000, Mark II Triumph 2000 saloon. Did this ever get restored? Was it just used for parts? That's followed by an Austin 1100 Estate. Very handy car indeed. That would be the Countryman version, in fact. OEC, a police car version of the Rover P6 3.5 litre. And a very smart minivan, the Mini 95 van, with a mini saloon alongside, both very much 1970s BL. Another Rover P6 3.5 litre. Probably an automatic. The manual cars were badged as a 3500S. That is followed by a Series 3 V12 E-Type Roadster. By this point in time, Jaguar part of British Leyland. Same again with this one. This is a Daimler badged version of the XJ Series 1. The Daimler Sovereign, circa 1973. In the review of another example, this is a 2.8 litre car with the earlier reversing lamps that had the reflectors built into them. Another Triumph 2500S. And a Triumph GT6 Mark III PPO 656M 1973 car. Various other BL cars in evidence there as well. And here we've got an Austin badged version of the Morris Minor van, circa 1972-73 maybe. A 6 and an 800 weight van. This is an unusual MG Midget. It would have been a chrome bumper car, and it's got a fastback roof fitted. Possibly a Lenham or something like that. A very late example of a Triumph Dolomite. Plenty more British Leyland cars to come. And here we have an H registration Series 2 Jaguar E-Type. And a Leyland Sherpa. I had tried to find a photo of a Sherpa van, but I can only find this camper. They very rarely turn up at shows now. And an Austin Maxi, blue example of the Maxi, 4-door car. All the Maxis were 4 doors, of course. No estates either. And this is an MG Midget 1500, which shared its 1500cc engine with the rival Triumph Spitfire, which could date its origins all the way back to the 1950s. And there's a rubber bumper MGB GT, V registration. Note the fold back roof. And here's a Rover P6 3500S, so this would be the manual gearbox car. Most were automatic. And there's a Mini Clubman estate. And a classic Land Rover, Series 3 Land Rover of the early 1970s. Very much part of British Leyland by this point, of course. Another rally-prepared Triumph TR7. And a rear three-quarter view of a Daimler 66. This had the 5.3 litre V12 engine. Daimler badge version slightly more at market than the Jaguar. That's followed by a V8 powered MGB, the MGB GT V8. The Morris Marina, this is a campervan conversion. Quite a rare sight now, Harvest Gold campervan. The race prepared SD1, this was down at Silverstone. This looks like an ex-Andy Rouse car. A late example of the Triumph Dolomite. Sticking with the Dolomite theme, here's a race-prepared Dolomite Sprint. Dolly Sprint was notable for being a 16-valve car. Back to Minis, and a Mini 95 pickup, somewhat modified, bigger wheels, wheel arch extensions. That's on an S registration, so about 1977-78. And a very early Austin or Morris 1800 YMA 527F, that would be late 1967, looks very original paint. The brace of Austin Allegros, an estate nearest the camera and a four-door saloon alongside. And a posh Maxi, a 1750 HL in metallic bronze colour. Definitely the plush version of the range. And an early XJS. Most of which are automatic. You could get a few manual examples using up XE-type stock, but most were autos. And sticking with V12 Jaguars, we've got the XJ 5.3C, the broad speed racing car of the mid to late 1970s. Never very reliable, but a very powerful car, and that's followed by an Austin 1300 Countryman, the estate's version of the ADO 16 range. Perhaps you could tell me who did this conversion on an XJ Series 3. This is a 1985 car. Convertible, fold-back roof, another Austin 1100 or 1300 here, single carburettor transverse engine just like the Mini 4-door example. A very swish 1972 Jaguar E-Type Series 3 Roadster. There really were extremes in British Leyland from the Mini all the way up to the E-Type. And the Triumph TC 2000, a P6 on Y wheels, not something you see very often. And the Morris Marina rally car, coupe rally car. Again, not something you see all that regularly nowadays, but they were used. Note the special tuning stickers on the side. Another VDP 1500 with a more basic Allegro alongside. Talking of VDP, here's the Van der Plas 1300 Sev 256M. This was at the Haynes Motor Museum down in Somerset, I believe. Morris half-ton pickup truck. Primarily this is cars of British Leyland, but I have included one or two light commercials. And then we've got a review of a Triumph Spitfire Mark IV, taking part in a parade at a classic car show back in 2005, I believe that was. And at the same event was this unusual ambulance based on the early Range Rover, the Range Rover Classic, as it's called now. Still some more BL cars to come. It was an experimental car, designed to possibly replace the Mini, slightly larger, slightly squared off, but it didn't actually come to anything in the end. That's followed by a 1500 Spitfire on Mini-Lite look-alike wheels with a TR6 alongside. The Triumph Acclaim. I couldn't find a photo of an Acclaim for part 1 of this British Leyland photo collection, but I found this one. This was in Sandbach on a road run many years ago. That's followed by a Mini Clubman N registration, so that'd be 1974-75. And a Triumph 2000 Mark II, 1972 car. Very clean looking car indeed. If you know where any of these cars are now, please pop a note into the comments. There's a 2.5 PI rally car with the Lucas fuel injection. not desperately reliable back in the day, and we finish up with a Mini 1275 GT, prepared for racing. And that Mini concludes this second collection of classic British Leyland cars of the 1960s, 1970s and into the 1980s. If you haven't yet seen part 1 of this BL collection, please take a look at some of the other videos on the channel, and more classic car videos coming very soon. So thanks for watching, and bye for now.